The rain poured relentlessly over the glass skyscraper, each drop echoing against the cold steel walls. At just 19, Emma felt the weight of the world pressing on her shoulders as she walked into Sergey Brin's office. A man known not just for his fortune, but for his sharp mind and relentless ambition. "Emma," Sergey said, his tone unusually serious, "we need to discuss the future." "Our future," her heart skipped a beat. She had always admired him from afar, but the words that followed froze her blood. "I want us to be married," he said simply. She stared at him, shock mingling with disbelief. She was young, barely out of school, and yet here was a man who had changed the world, asking her to tie her life to his. But what struck her most wasn't fear. It was curiosity. How had fate brought her to this moment? And more importantly, could she survive the storm of expectations that came with it? As she left the office, rain soaking her dress, a flicker of determination sparked in her heart. She would not crumble. She would rise, and yet neither of them knew that the challenges ahead would test them in ways neither could imagine. The wedding night revelation. The grand hall glittered with chandeliers, the soft hum of expensive music filling the air. Emma's hands trembled as she clutched the bouquet, her mind racing with doubt. Sergey, calm and composed, approached her with a gentle smile. "You don't have to be afraid," he whispered, placing a small velvet box in her hands. Inside, there wasn't the sparkling jewelry she had imagined. There was a simple notebook. The pages were empty, but Sergey's words written on the first page shook her. "Here is everything we will build together. Your dreams, my guidance, our future." Emma felt a surge of emotion she hadn't anticipated. This wasn't about wealth or power. It was about vision, courage, and shared ambition. She realized then that marriage, for Sergey, wasn't a possession but a partnership. But just as relief began to wash over her, a sudden phone call disrupted the night. Sergey's expression hardened. "There's been a problem with one of the projects. I need to go." Emma watched him leave, her heart pounding. What could possibly go wrong? Now trials of trust. The next morning, Emma faced the reality of Sergey's world. Endless meetings, urgent decisions, and a life she could barely keep up with. She tried to focus on her studies, but the demands of being married to a billionaire were overwhelming. One afternoon, Sergey's assistant approached her. "Emma, there's been an insider leak at the company. Sergey's trusting you to keep this confidential." Fear gripped her. She barely understood the intricacies of his empire, but as she looked at the notebook he had given her, she realized it wasn't about knowledge. It was about courage, integrity, and stepping into the unknown. Hours turned into days. Mistakes were made, lessons were learned, and slowly Emma discovered that resilience wasn't just about surviving. It was about growing stronger through every misstep. But one evening, as she reviewed a report Sergey had left her, she noticed a suspicious pattern, something that could cost millions. Her hands shook. Could she really handle this? It was midnight when Emma discovered the truth. A trusted partner had been siphoning funds, and her hesitation had almost let him escape. She ran to Sergey's study, panic written across her face. Sergey turned, calm but stern. "Mistakes happen, Emma, but how you respond defines you." Together they traced every transaction, every lie. Emma's hands moved with purpose, her mind sharp, her heart pounding with determination. Through the ordeal, she learned a painful lesson. Success and trust were fragile, and power came with responsibility. But in the end, their unity was stronger. Sergey placed his hand on hers, his eyes softening. "You're learning faster than I imagined." Just as relief settled, a new email arrived. Subject line blinking. "Your next move will determine everything." The turning point. Emma stared at the email, realizing the stakes were higher than she had ever imagined. Sergey's empire wasn't just money. It was ideas, influence, and innovation. And someone wanted to take it all away. The following days were a whirlwind of strategy sessions, late-night calculations, and endless brainstorming. Sergey encouraged Emma to speak her mind, to propose solutions, to innovate. "You're not just my wife," he said one night as they reviewed a critical project. You're my partner. And partners take risks together. Emma's confidence grew. She learned that perseverance wasn't about avoiding failure, it was about facing it head-on. Learning, adapting, and moving forward. But as they celebrated a small victory, Sergei received a call that changed everything. His voice was clipped, urgent. "We've been compromised. I need you ready." The ultimate challenge. The company was under siege. Media scrutiny, cyberattacks, and financial instability threatened to collapse everything Sergei had built. Emma, now stronger and wiser, stood by his side, strategizing, negotiating, and defending their vision. Each night, she poured her thoughts into the notebook, turning it from empty pages into a blueprint for resilience, empathy, and innovation. Sergei watched her transformation with quiet admiration. "You've grown beyond anything I could have imagined," he said. But just as they seemed to gain the upper hand, a familiar face appeared, someone from Emma's past, holding secrets that could unravel everything she had fought for. Legacy of resilience. The final confrontation was intense. Emma faced her fears, her doubts, and the shadows of her past. Sergei stood beside her, but it was her courage, ingenuity, and unwavering spirit that turned the tide. The company survived. The threats were neutralized, and in the quiet of the night, Emma looked at the notebook once more, filled with ideas, struggles, lessons, and triumphs. Sergei took her hand, smiling. "You see, it wasn't about being forced into anything. It was about discovering who you really are, strong, innovative, compassionate. That is the real wealth." Emma smiled, tears in her eyes. The journey had been brutal, exhilarating, and transformative. She had learned that life's challenges weren't walls, they were stepping stones. And together, they would continue to rise, creating a legacy of resilience and purpose that went far beyond wealth. As the city lights shimmered outside, she whispered to herself, "This is just the beginning."